Hello, everybody. What is up? And welcome to another live edition of Rocket Live. I am here today with a really good friend of mine who's also happens to be a coach and mentor of mine as well, Mr. Martin Rooney from Training for Warriors. We've been talking about having you on the show forever, my friend, and here he is. I'm so happy to finally have you on.
Well, my pleasure to be here. Hey, to be honored as if I'm a rock star. I can't believe it. And I'm sure today, so many people are going to hear about our history, and which goes back almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say before we even get going that I wouldn't be considered, maybe if somebody would refer to me as a rock star, I wouldn't have the skills or the abilities without you and Mark and all the work that we did together a long time ago. So for anybody listening, know that one thing a rock star should always do is shout out all the people that helped him get there. And Chris is definitely one of those people.
Well, thank you for saying that, sir. And absolutely. I mean, it's we've all come a very long way from the days of working together and making those videos, man. That was a ton of fun back then, and I'm so glad and so fortunate we had that experience to be able to work together, create together, and just learn and grow with each other. So it's been awesome watching you build up Training for Warriors, become this rock star of a coach and trainer, and help other people, man. You've made such a huge difference in so many other people's lives, and I've while the years have gone by and we've been busy in our businesses, I think we've all done a fairly decent job trying to keep up with each other. And I've been watching everything you've been doing, the content you put out there, the books you've been writing, which we'll talk about, the podcast, the training, everything you've been about. So I'm happy to have you on, and I'm looking forward to talking to you and having people listen to about you, your background, and how you how you just mentally prepare yourself, but then get people to get over themselves and just attain their inner rock star.
Well, hey, I'm ready to rock and give people that information. But remember, for anybody listening, everything we're about to say, this stuff really happened. The only thing that scares me about it is it's just reminding me I'm starting to get old, man. So you're going to hear about a lot of stuff. But remember, a lot of the stuff, I don't think people become rock stars overnight. And maybe that's the first thing if we were going to talk about it, right? For instance, if I were to define, hey, what are some commonalities of rock star, whether you're involved in music, whether you're involved in business, whether you're involved in sport. And probably the biggest one is it's a process. It's not an event. It's not something that just happens with, hey, I'm going to post one video. It's going to get 1 billion views and now I'm the man.
Right.
And I think sometimes we want that, but I want everybody to know that it's about the journey. And being a rock star is not a destination. It's a process. And hopefully today we uncover some of that for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's well said, 100%. Because becoming a rock star isn't just something you're really just you're born into and just wake up one day. I mean, it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of effort, and it begins with the mindset, man. But once you have that mindset, like then you're off to the races and you can pretty much accomplish anything. And we've been talking about, I've had other people on, and a reoccurring theme here is like, we are our own worst enemies, man. We get in our own way on achieving the things we want to achieve because we talk ourselves out of it so much, and so much in the weeds. And the thing is, if you overcome that, you could do anything that you want. And that is one thing that I know is 100% true.
Well, absolutely. And I'll add to that, Chris, that, hey, the first thing, and right now with, for everybody just throwing it out there before we even start, it's recognizing this entire COVID experience, right? And
right.
Hey, I hope everybody is safe. We've got the holidays coming up right now. We've got a lot of challenges, but why I brought that up, I guess, is, hey, we have these challenges, but the real battle, where this is all happening, obviously it's about our health. It's about our immune systems. But when we talk about immunity, we're rarely immune on the battleground of the 6 inches in between our ears. And you hit the nail on the head that many people, I think anybody could achieve rock star status in something if they follow some of the formulas that we'll probably talk about today.
Yeah.
Usually they will let the start stop them because they either said the wrong thing in their own heads Or I'll even add to that too, or they'll
Right.
listen to all the people around them that aren't rock stars that'll tell them that it's not possible. And I guess that's pretty interesting because some people might say, oh, look at Martin up here. He's trying to be all Pollyanna. He's going to get me fired up so I can be a rock star. Yeah, I am. I'm going to be that guy. And you probably got 100 people around you that are going to tell you you're not. And ultimately, in those 6 inches in between your ears, you get to decide what's true. And hey, if you say you're not a rock star, then you're right. But if you say and start off with the idea that either I am or I can be, you're going to take totally different actions. And man, again, same thing. So watch this, Chris. Here's a good one.
Yeah.
Breakthroughs here. Not only is being a rock star a process, it's not an event. It's also not an accident. So I'm sure. So anybody listening, whatever you classify as a rock star, I guarantee if you look at their history, they, it wasn't by accident. It's not like, oh, I just became a rock star and I never saw it coming. That process was, listen to this word, deliberate. They had a deliberate process because that's what they wanted to achieve, and then it happened. And so for everybody listening, that's the first step is, do you want it? Can you see yourself like that? And then can you commit to the deliberate process that it's going to require to make that happen? And that might be an overall summary of all the stuff maybe that we'll talk about today using my history.
I think so. I totally think so. So that was a great synopsis up front.
Guys, we didn't prep that. That was like, this is how I work. That's kind of what it's out. But hey, if I'm going to get called a rock star, I might as well show everybody else how to do it.
Yeah, man, absolutely, 100%, and I think that's great too. So, I mean, I want to start talking, but I think it's really worth noting. So, for the people out there watching this or listening to this, who don't know who you are, I think it'd be great to just set the stage and just give everybody a little bit of background about who you are, where you came from, and what Training for Warriors is all about.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to try to give everybody as brief a history as possible. And yeah, I guess I skipped that step where people are like, hey, who's this guy? What am I going to listen to this guy for? But hey, short version, right? I was born in New Jersey, grew up there, was an athlete, and track and field in particularly, and I went on a scholarship to college. I got a degree in exercise science because that was my passion, and that'll be important, I think, what we talk about today. My real passion was exercise science and fitness. At that time, physical therapy was becoming a hot career. A number of people, including my parents and teachers, they all said, you should be a therapist. And I applied, got in, and went to physical therapy school without even really understanding really what it was all about. It didn't take long for me to realize, hey, I liked it, but I don't know if this was what I really loved. But I went and got 2 degrees in the field. And then in a weird twist of fate, I made the U.S. bobsled team. As an out, right? So I make the U.S. bobsled team. I get to travel around the world representing the United States. But when my Olympic dream was over, I came back home to New Jersey. And what did I do? I became a therapist, right? Because that's what everybody said. That's what your degrees are in. That's what you should do. And I got a job in an orthopedic practice. And I would probably say within the first few weeks of the stress, the commute, the paperwork, the insurance, I realized, like, man, I don't know if this is what I want to do. Now, the sad part of the story right there is I realized that in 3 weeks, but I did it for the next 3+ years. But during that, there was this knot in my gut, like the Monday blues, but this other thing driving me still to what I was passionate about. So I started attending course after course after course. And I don't even know if you know this part of the story, Chris. I went to a course and I was flying to Tyler, Texas, and I sat next to Bill Parisi on the plane.
I did not know that part of the story, actually. This is the first time I'm hearing that part.
And that's how we're connected, which people will hear about later. And so by the end of that trip, Bill and I find out who we are. We share a cab to the hotel. And by the end of the trip, I realize I want to come work with this guy. This guy's starting this fitness company for kids, sports performance. It was my passion. He needed a guy like me. And boom, I went in, I quit my job. And my parents thought I was out of my mind. They actually told me no. And I moved up to Wyckoff, New Jersey, into the basement of a guy's house that I had met through season jet tickets. And that's when I started with the Parisi Speed School, which is where we started working together on video, commercials, DVDs, everything, building my skills. But everybody in the world said I was out of my mind. But when I did it and when I was chasing my passion, it was like I'd never worked a day in my life. And through that, it got bigger and bigger. I started working with a lot of pros. I started working with a lot of MMA guys, including a lot of UFC champs. And I was the first one in on that. So it garnered me a lot of notoriety. I guess you could say I became a rock star in that space. I wrote a number of books, and those books turned into courses. And at those courses, it wasn't fighters coming to it anymore. It was people looking to pursue their fitness, gym owners that wanted to be involved in fitness. And they all kept saying, how do I do this? I want to be part of this. And that told me I had something. And organically, Training for Warriors was born. And then it grew up to, at our zenith, obviously COVID in the last 10 months have been very challenging for our industry.
Of course.
But in its zenith, we had 300 locations in 30 countries around the world, tens of thousands of people every day utilizing the program. And like you said, I saw that whether you want to call it my art or the rock that I was producing, it was really helping a lot of people. And I realized then that's what I was supposed to be doing and making a larger impact. And so the first thing I will say, because we're already going over some rock star lessons, and I would love maybe somebody takes some notes off this. We already said it's a process, and we already said it doesn't happen overnight, right? Well, here's the thing. For it to happen, I believe this. You got to be doing something you love. For you to be a rock star, it's got to be something you love that you're passionate about. I don't know. I'm pretty sure rock stars of music like music. I'm sure they like music, the instrument they play, the music they're producing. I'm pretty sure they don't go there with a knot in their gut, say it's the worst thing they ever did, and then produce incredible music, right? And that's the same thing for everybody listening. And I'm going to give everybody a rock star challenge right now. You ready?
Here we go. Drop it.
Yeah. Don't do something you don't love. Like, don't spend the rest of your life doing something you don't like. And I'll give you something right now that I wish somebody would have given me then that I now understand would have gave me a lot more confidence. If right now, because I get it, that sounds scary, but maybe this is the biggest time to change, right? Like now, maybe your job isn't what it used to be. Now's an opportunity to really do something about it. And here's what I wish somebody would have told me a long time ago. If you know what your passion is and you do go and take a shot at it, what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? And here's what I would say, because some people, they'd be like, oh, well, I've lost everything. It's over. It's this, it's that. No. I'm not saying take uncalculated risks, but go give it a shot. The worst thing that probably could happen is it doesn't work out and you go back to doing what you're already doing. Right. And I wish I would have understood that, because if I would have understood that, I would have probably made the move sooner and been on point with my passion even faster. So that's kind of a quick review in there. Hey, I also have 4 daughters, yes, and that's 4, so you can imagine.
I know.
Challenges in my house right now. And Chris and I, because we haven't seen each other as much anymore, I am living outside of Charlotte, North Carolina now, where when we worked together for over a decade up there in New Jersey. Yep. And again, hopefully everybody hears that story. And it's hard to toot your own horn, right? But there has been, I've sold hundreds of thousands of books, tens of thousands of DVDs. My business and the people that I've coached, I've estimated that it's over $1 billion in revenue that it's generated. So I don't know what somebody measures as rock star status, but I'm hoping that if any of those impress you, I want to impress upon you that I've got something to share that ultimately can make you better.
Right. And to that point, I actually have, I have at all given times, pretty much your 3 books. Well, 3 of them that I show them right here. This is the latest one, Coach to Coach, which is awesome. Yeah. But I leave, these are, and you can see there's books behind me, and I always have Rooney Rules, 5 things, and Coach to Coach behind me at all time, because I literally every day I pull it out, I read one of the bits, I read a Rooney Rule. Dude, these books have helped me tremendously. So and Coach to Coach, this is a great book, man. Well, talk about this for a little bit.
Yeah, well, and that's what it's for. So as Chris is saying, those aren't my only books. I have done 11 books. So 11 books, and I'm working. I think I
didn't even realize you did 11 books. I was rereading stuff, and I was I'm like, holy crap, you did 11 books. Like
well, they're different genres too.
No, they are different genres because it's not just all fitness.
And hot off the presses, this is a brand new idea for anybody listening. I have been commissioned to write the sequel to Coach to Coach.
Really?
Yes. Yeah,
awesome.
So book 12 is already, and before I got on here with you, I have been just writing like a maniac, locking myself away in my office, and I'm 9 chapters deep. So it's starting to really roll, and I love how it's coming out. But this book that Chris mentioned, Coach to Coach, is, I'll get to that last, but to go all the way full circle, actually almost 20 years ago is when I wrote my first book. And, that book, actually I have one here. I'm using it as a prop right now. That one was called Train to Win.
Train to Win.
And that was my first book about my philosophy of training. And that book led to a bigger book called the Team Henzo Gracie Workout. That book sold so well underground on Amazon that I got called by the HarperCollins publishers. And then we did 3 major books called Training for Warriors, Ultimate Warrior Workouts, and then Warrior Cardio. And you remember, those were the ones they sent me all over the world to shoot. And they were, and that was almost a decade-long process to produce those 3. And those are sold at Barnes and Nobles and bookstores around the world. And then along the way, I started really getting into not just fitness and exercise and the philosophy behind that, but I realized none of it matters if you can't coach somebody to do it. Right. And that's when I really deep dove into the concept of coaching. I started teaching courses on coaching around the world. And when those courses would end, the attendees would always say, man, you got to put this into a book. It's incredible. And for years I sat on it, but it never felt right. Like it was never like, okay, here, when somebody says this, now you say that. Like coaching doesn't work like that. But I realized everybody loves my stories and everybody loved the ideas. So I challenged myself and I said, why don't I do something, a total departure? Why don't I write a story, a fictional story that brings together all those points, but really teaches it in a lesson people won't forget? Right. And here's the thing. I didn't have a publisher, but I wrote it. I was so compelled and into it, I just wrote it and then I sent it to publishers. But actually, I only sent it to one, and I sent it to the one that I thought would be the greatest one that would do it. And in a day and a half, they called and said, this is it, man. We haven't seen one like this in a while. We got to have it. And 2 days after we went into quarantine this year, Coach to Coach came out. It is, you ready for this, Chris? Look at this though.
This showed up.
This is in German. So this one just German. This version just got produced in German last week. Tens of thousands of copies are already out there around the world, and people can check it out. It's on sale right now on Amazon, and there are over 350 reviews, and people are loving it. Yeah. And it just shows. It was one of my biggest challenges because I've never written a story or a screenplay, if you will, before. And the names on the back. Look at some of the names. Dan Gable, Olympic coach. Lou Holtz. Yep. Sean Johnson, the Olympic medalist. And Rudy from the movie Rudy. He read it, said it was such a great book. He put a story on it. So that, I guess, I don't know. That there's some rock star lessons in there somewhere. But
there are. And it's funny, too, because to your point, what you were just saying is you finished it recording. I got this right when we went into lockdown, and I had ordered it. And then, with everything going on, all of a sudden it shows up, and I'm like, oh man, this is great. It was actually with all the chaos of everything going on when we first initially went into lockdown, it was really cool to be able to then get this, because it was sort of this is exactly what I needed to read and absorb just at that moment of time when chaos was happening and nobody knew what was going on. And, the start of this pandemic, which, seems like 1,000 years ago, but it was, it was only 8 months ago that we went into this initially, or 9 months ago. And it's crazy how much things have changed. But so you talk a lot. So the book is great, the Coach, and I urge anybody out there to pick this up. But you mentioned the people on the back and a lot of the coaches, and I think this goes to some of the stuff I wanted to talk about too, because it is that importance of coaching, and I wanted to kind of understand that a little bit more from you, why coach? What is that importance? Why should people have a coach? And why is that important?
Well, it's funny. that you said, the message inside the book, I didn't write it because how could I have ever known the challenges we were going to all be facing?
Right.
But I have received so much feedback, like you just said, about how the book has affected people and how bad they needed it now. And I think here would be the great lesson on that. You can, because if you even notice at the bottom, it says, a little story on how to be a great leader. And right now, hey, for everybody listening, regardless of what country you're from, regardless of what your political views are, I'm pretty sure everybody can agree that, man, leadership is more important than ever, and it has become a bigger focus. But I'm not just talking about leaders of countries and world leaders or just communities or states. I'm talking about leaders in your own house. And in order to lead your home, you got to be a great coach. Like, you got to be able to coach. Yeah. So why I think the book connected is that and you had said, why do I think it's important? I'll say, I make the statement in the book, it's the most important job in the world. And you might argue and say, no, doctors, lawyers. Well, without great coaches, there wouldn't be any of them either. So being a great coach is synonymous with being a great teacher, being a great parent, being a great leader. You can use that word interchangeably, but few people have ever taken a course on it. Few people have ever studied it. How many books have people read about it? And when I was looking at my shelves, I always remember what my dad would always say. He'd say, find a need, fill a need, man. And I realized the book I wanted to read wasn't on the shelf. So then I just sat down and wrote it. And actually, what's funny? Maybe that's a rock star idea there.
Yeah.
Nothing to pull out is people love music, but there's music in their head that they want to hear that isn't out there, and then they write it, man. And
exactly,
that was the same thing right there. So maybe for everybody listening again, that might be something worth writing down. What is it that's in your head? What is that song or that passion or that idea that the world needs? And you can find it. Well, instead of waiting around for it anymore, go be that rock star for somebody else. And that is the genesis behind Coach to Coach.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, and it says a lot too. I just did a video too recently on, I've been doing this thing on Monday mornings, or Mondays, and it was a buddy of mine. He recommended I do this because he's like, you should just start doing like something with music and all that because I'm me, I'm a huge music fan. I mean, look at everything behind me and Rocket Growth Agency, and so I started dropping a video every Monday called Monday music motivation. And I literally don't go deep. I just I pick a record that for me, one of my favorite records that I listen to and just gets me fired up. It's just, music to me is such an inspiration of how I get through my week, how I create things, how I come up with ideas, how I produce content, how I develop coaching styles. It's such a big part of it. So I'm literally just featuring, hey, this record means a lot to me. This is why it gets me charged up and fired up. Here's the songs on the record. And I keep them pretty short. But this week I did Black Sabbath. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because what you were just saying, like Black Sabbath, that record is 50 years old. Like, believe it or not, it's 50 years old. That record came out. Those guys, the four guys, they're the working class poor guys from England who just were creating and accidentally created a genre of music and a sound all their own due to Tony Iommi losing half his finger and all these different things. Like, they created a style of music that they didn't even know they were creating. And here it is 50 years later. It's this massive generational, like, genre starting record. But the thing is, I think everybody needs to always remember is like a band like Black Sabbath, like, of course they're huge now. But even to the point to get to that record, them making that record, I mean, they had no money. They literally had to do that. They had to record that record in one day. So they literally just played their set, the set that they knew. Like, they knew these songs, but they had already been playing for years before they even got to that point, then made the record, and then had to do it in this record amount of time, go on tour, come back, and the record's done, and they're out. And then they still toured their asses off to like get to that point before it really started to take off. But I mean, what I'm trying to get at here is that things, like, once again, things don't happen overnight. And, we're even having a great little discussion off air about the fact that you went to the same school that Bon Jovi went to. And, and you were telling me great stories about that, where, like, he's voted least likely to succeed or something like that. I mean,
Well, hey, I'm from Sayreville, New Jersey, and and a lot of times when I'm somewhere in the world, I will say that I went to the same high school and from the same boyhood town of John Bon Jovi. And, and then also usually I say, and as you can imagine how hard it is for him to be the second most famous from his own hometown. That's got to be hard, right?
Yeah.
Then everybody laughs. But when he was coming up, I can remember playing street hockey near his house, and he was handing out demo tapes to us kids. And in the senior superlatives, I always heard this about his yearbook because he's older than me. I didn't go to high school at the same time. But it said that he was most likely to play air guitar the rest of his life. That's what people thought. And they said he'd always be sitting back of the class, saying he's going to be a rock star, and nobody believed in him. And I'll tell you this, I take great pride in being not only from that town, but that guy, I mean, remember, this was early 80s.
Yeah, early
80s. And he is still as relevant today and just got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And man, we're talking, what are we talking there? It's we're going on 40 years.
I mean, 40 plus years. I mean, we're just talking about Black Sabbath being 50 years old. That record, I mean, he's 40 over 40 years into this, making
unreal.
music and being relevant. Yeah. And it's a guy who, once again, I think it just goes to kind of talk about what, everything that we're saying here is that, like things just don't happen overnight for people. Like, yes, they're rock stars, but like they had a journey that got them to being a rock star. But the thing is anybody could do it. Like a guy like Bon Jovi had talent. He pursued it. Listen, not everybody makes it to be as big as Bon Jovi. Not everybody makes the genre defining record as like Black Sabbath, but that doesn't matter though.
I'm having a breakthrough, Chris. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Because I wrote a blog a long time ago. It's in the book of 5 things too that you have, I think.
Yeah.
I talked about it. So Bon Jovi is somebody I always talk about when it comes to rock stars. But there's one guy that I really liked and I had an opportunity to hang out with that was really impactful for me. And I wrote about it. And this was a lot of years ago. Are you ready for this? So I was in Munich, Germany. I had been presenting for a couple of weeks and I got online. I'm leaving Munich. I'm at the airport.
Right.
And I'm online, I'm in the, in a special line too, luckily, because I travel so much. Hey, rock stars get to go in the first class lines, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm there and I'm noticing up ahead of me, something's going on because I can see how the people are reacting in line. They're all talking and pointing amongst themselves, but something's going on. And I kind of look and I see this guy in this long black leather jacket, spiked hair, but I can't see him. So I don't know what it's about, but there's something about this guy, right? And finally, the guy turns. Do you know who it is?
Who?
You should have read the book, so then you would know.
I'm trying to tee it up.
Yeah, okay. Hey, Billy Idol. So it's Billy Idol is in line in front of me, and I'm like, holy crap, that's Billy Idol. So all of a sudden, man, I'm realizing everybody's afraid of him. And I say, I got to figure out how to get further up in the line. I got to figure out how to get ahead of him or put my shoes on and off so fast and all this stuff that I can get ahead of him because I got to introduce myself. I am not going to blow this and not say hello to Billy Idol. And that might be another rock star lesson right here, right off the bat, guys. Hey, guys, most people just stood there and did nothing, and a rock star is going to take action. Right? Like, again, what's the worst that could happen? He says, get away from me, and then I say Billy Idol's not cool anymore. So I get ahead of him, go up the escalator, and then he comes up the escalator. And as he's coming up, he can't go anywhere. He can't get off that escalator until he's talked to me. And I'm like, hey, Billy Idol, man, I'm a huge fan. And you know what he says? He says, oh, yeah, really? Now watch this. I had recently read his book. He came out with a biography.
Right.
And man, I said, yeah, recently I read your book. And that I guarantee was something he had never heard from somebody, So he's probably saying to himself, oh, here's another fan. But instead he goes, yeah, what did you think? And I said, man, I really liked it. But the thing that struck me the most was it seemed like you had been playing forever. You're playing these small shows and these little things, you and Joan Jett and all those pictures you had in the book. And then all of a sudden something popped and then you were a star. And he goes, that's exactly what happened. And then we started talking. And then he was like, what do you do? And all this stuff. And then we ended up in a lounge together for hours and hours before our international flights. And I got all these cool stories and all this cool stuff. And he ended up being here's another lesson. And rock stars, guys, They're all regular people. They're regular people.
They all put their pants on the same way.
Yeah, they just did things that made everybody call them a rock star. And I had this incredible experience. One, because I wasn't afraid to talk or whatever else, and it wasn't about me. I was celebrating them.
Right.
And but that's my coolest, like the coolest rock star story I have, because ever since, and hey, I always loved Rebel Yell, White Wedding, all this, but like when those songs come on, right, I'll think back to that. And he played like not the Super Bowl, but it was like some big, huge sporting event. He was the halftime show, like of late. And it's
I'm trying to, I can't remember, but yeah, it was recent.
Really cool. Yeah, that's what I mean. It was just so cool to see that the guy's still doing. He did a Geico commercial, all this other stuff.
Oh yeah, I remember the Geico commercials.
Yeah, great. This guy's been a rock star for 40 years too.
Yeah.
But man, that just hit me right there, that I had totally forgotten about that I wanted to share.
No, and it's a great story. It's a really good story. I wanted to kind of come back a little bit too, and I think you just touched on something I think which is really interesting, because you were just saying, like, rock stars, like, they go for it, and I think that a lot of times the reason why people don't go for it just comes down to the word fear. Fear is a big thing, and I totally get it. I'm there's things I'm fearful of, and and we all do it. We're all human beings, right? Yeah, I mean, there's things we're fearful of, and I think it's just overcoming fear is a really difficult thing for a lot of people. How do you go about that? How do you help people to overcome fear? Because I know you work with a lot of these athletes, and just because these guys are professionals and they're big people, big trained, like, doesn't necessarily mean they don't have fears, like, and then you work with people in business and they have fears. I mean, how do you teach people to overcome that?
Well, here's what I would say, again, going back to our COVID experience or the pandemic right now. And I want to say to everybody, if you have experienced fear or anxiety during this process, that doesn't make you weak. That makes you a human being. And if you haven't experienced any fear during this, I want to hear your secret, because I don't know how that's even like possible. But so what am I saying there first is, fear is normal, right? And fear is something that is ingrained into our DNA. It's something that it can be helpful. And so understanding that, the first thing that I would say is, don't think it's abnormal to experience fear. There's this old book that I had. It was called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Right? Mm-hmm. It's a classic, a classic of reading. But here's what I would say, and I talked to a number of psychologists about this. So in particular on business. Now, yes, the athletes that I have, I'm training UFC fighters. You don't think they're not afraid? They're afraid to lose. They're afraid to not make the money. They're afraid to not do well and then be out of that career. So fear exists for anybody, right?
Correct, right.
And but right now, in this particular time, when we're fearing for our health, we're fearing for our businesses and what we've built. I was talking to a lot of psychologists, real neuropsychologists, real people, and I came to two conclusions, and this is pretty cool, and I think this will be very helpful to everybody. Your fear, and the anxiety that you feel, there's one key operative word that I want to share with everybody, but it stems from just two things. The amount of fear or anxiety you have is either going to stem from your perceived amount of threat from whatever that thing is that's giving you the fear, and or your perceived ability to cope with that threat. So what I'm saying there is here's an example. Let's say a giant bear walks through my office door right now, a grizzly bear, and it's like roaring, right? I'm going to have a high perceived threat. And I'm going to have a low perceived ability to cope with that threat. So what's going to happen? Am I going to be scared?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to be scared.
Of course, you're going to be terrified.
I'm going to actually dive out a glass window. Now let's contrast that with, say, my little 7-year-old daughter walks in the room, and she's growling and baring her teeth and trying to threaten me. I'm going to have a much lower level of threat. And I know I got a way higher ability to cope with that threat. So fear and anxiety are lessened. But the word that is operative there is it's perceived. See, a lot of people, they create this size of the threat, and the threat isn't really as big as it seems. See, at first, I might have said, at first, oh my gosh, there's Billy Idol. I can't talk to him. What would he say? He'll laugh in my face. I'm so afraid. But instead, I made that threat very small. And I made my ability to cope by knowing his book and knowing stuff about him and being able to talk to people very high. So my fear level went down when everybody else's stayed the same. Right. Now, using that same thing, you said, what would I get people to do? Anybody right now that's listening, hey, and this is tough because you gotta embrace it. What scares you right now? You know, what's the stuff that's really scaring you? Or what are you fearful of? And then you got to really look at it, and I always say you got to marinate in it. Like, how bad is it really? And can you do things that can break whatever it is down into smaller pieces, digestible pieces that you're able to cope with? And when you see that, your fear goes down. As an example, like I said, I'm writing the sequel to Coach to Coach. So if anybody's listening, buy it on Amazon because the price is like, they got it like 30% off right now on Amazon.
Black Friday special.
Yeah. But the whole thing is you got to get it because you better be fearful because the second one's going to come out. You didn't read the first one. But yeah, using it as an example, at first when I was going to now start sitting down to write the second one, I was afraid. Like, oh man, here's what starts going through your head. Will people like it? Will I be able to do it? Oh man, it's going to take so long. It's going to be so hard. Am I really ready? Am I really an okay writer? And then, you know what the secret was, Chris? Like I said, I broke it down into small chunks. And I said, write the first chapter. And then, the first chapter was scaring me. So then I said, write the first paragraph. The first paragraph scared me. So then write the first sentence. And you know what? I wrote the first sentence. And now I'm already going to be starting tomorrow on chapter 10. And I love how it's coming out. And I felt the fear, but I took some action and I did it anyway. So are you ready? I got a rock star lesson. Are you ready, Chris?
Drop it. Drop the bomb.
Big. The knowledge bomb is about to drop. The antidote to fear is action. The antidote to fear is action. See, if I have fear and I just sit and do nothing, then I just got more fear. But if I have fear and I do something, like the odds are that fear is going to go down. And so you got to write down for anybody listening because, hey, I'm not here to just entertain you. I'm here for you to take action. That's what a coach does. You got to write down what's scaring you. That's first. Break it down into pieces. But then you got to write down some little action you can take to make that fear go away. And I'll tell you what. Now, ready, Chris, you ready? You're going to like this line. I can't promise anything to anybody with that formula, but it usually works 100% of the time. and what I would say, and guys, and give it a shot. The worst thing you could do is try and it didn't, but I'm telling you right now, it usually doesn't work except 100% of the time. Right? So take some action, do something about it. And I'll tell you this, though, and here's another promise I'll make. Don't take any action and you'll never be a rock star, right? So action, once you know if you want it, once you know what your passion is, everything else, like you said about Black Sabbath, then they got to record the record, then they got to do the work. Like you could say you want to be a rock star all you want, like, and think about it all you want. But if you never strum a chord or sing a note, man, an album's never going to happen.
No, exactly. I mean, listen, Eddie Van Halen, God rest his soul. Let me tell you right now, Eddie Van Halen does not transform music, does not transform the way the instrument's played if he doesn't spend the thousands of hours required to master the instrument, but not only master it, but then create an entire style of playing that sounded like it was from outer space, and then creates Van Halen that becomes like one of the greatest American bands in the world.
Right over
doesn't happen. Yeah, he didn't just like wake up and say, I'm just going to play guitar and then put out Van Halen and then wrote Eruption. Like, that didn't happen.
Here would be another secret, going with the same thing. Because, guys, it doesn't just have to be music. Right. I'm working on my 12th book. But here's what's interesting. Chris, do you know how many books I've read this year?
How many?
107. And I'm about to finish 108. It's my highest total ever because I'm not traveling as much. I'm there, you know, I've had more, I guess you could say, downtime, but I used that aggressively. But here's what's interesting. You want to be a writer? Then, man, you got to read thousands of books before you should ever want to go and write one. Hey, you want to be a great musician? Then you got to play tens of thousands of hours of other people's music before you can ever create your own. And that's exactly the same story again. And what's the message? And this, because maybe some people, you might be listening and say, well, I don't like to hear that, Martin. I don't know if I don't want to do that. And here's the thing. Tomorrow's going to happen, right? And what you do with today will make all the difference. So you can either read a book or play an instrument or work on your business or spend time with your family today, or you won't. But if you don't do it tomorrow and then the next day and the next day, and over a year, it adds up and you did nothing, then at the end of that year, you got nothing. But what do? I chip away with 30, 40, 50 pages of reading a day. And at the end of 2020, it'll be 120 books. And like, so do you see how it's cumulative? Like that process that we're talking about, it's little bits on top of little bits, because eventually a little on top of a little becomes a lot. And that's how Eddie Van Halen did it. That's how Bon Jovi did it. That's how I wrote this. And that is a secret of being a rock star.
Boom. Drop the mic.
Yeah. Wait, I even have one here. Yeah, watch that. When I'm doing my podcast.
Yeah, there goes. Boom. That's awesome. No, that's awesome, man. And I'm telling you right now, we could probably go on for another 3 hours talking about this stuff, man. This is great.
I can't believe it. I'm like, hey, Chris, how long will we go? He's like, 30 minutes, but whatever. Like, we just ripped 45 like it was candy. So
I know. I know. We had more questions and stuff. Like but this is what happens when you and I get together, man. We go. We have a theme. We know what we want to talk about, and we just go. And this is awesome.
Well, here's what I would say, because it's always being respectful for people's time too.
Absolutely.
If everybody liked this, and guys, Chris is putting a service out there to make people better. That's why he's getting this done. So reach out to him, let him know, and let him know how it's helping. If you like this, if you got something from it, we'll do another one. Chris will set up another one, but we'll do another one if you write him and let him know how much you liked it, right? Which
seriously,
which tells you, why am I writing another book? Because so many people liked the first one. So, and doing this was a whole lot easier than the writing that I did today.
I was going to say, this is a lot better than writing. It's easier than writing.
I wish writing a book was as easy as this, because this would be, then I would have 100 books.
Well, I told everybody how I write blogs now. I put a blog on it, and I made a video. Is basically because I'm not very good at sitting down and writing. So I literally, I record, I verbally say the blog, and then I have it transcribed, and then I go in and I edit it like that. And that's how I write.
Whatever works, but you see how, but by doing that, you write your music, man. Like that's the stuff where it all comes out.
Yep, and that's what I tell everybody all the time, man. It's like you just got to get out there, play music, write the book, write the blog. I mean, whatever it is that you want to do, man. If you want to be a gardener, if you want to be a sommelier, if you want to be a cheesemaker or a shoemaker or what, I don't care. Whatever it is you want, I don't care, as long as it makes you happy. But the thing is that you're not going to do it unless you start doing it. Yeah. The thing is that if you're doing one thing now because you have to, out of survival or whatever it is, that's great. Keep doing that. But then little bit at a time will get you closer and closer to where you want to be. Don't get discouraged by it. Like, find the time to do it. And especially, it's the old adage, if you think it, you'll become it. That's it.
Yeah. Well, and every great person, probably if you trace it back enough, they were all doing something when they discovered the passion that eventually they got known for being a rock star for. And whether you want to call it a side hustle or whatever else,
whatever you want to call
it starts. That's what it did for me. I was a physical therapist, but my passion was fitness. So I started spending the free time that I had there. And then the same thing happened again with the fighting, and the same thing happened with the adult fitness, and the same thing happened with the writing. So for everybody listening, there's never enough time. It's not like you got, hey, here's my 10 hours of rock star time a day.
Yeah.
What it is
it doesn't happen like that.
Yeah. What it is it's chipping away. And again, a little on top of a little eventually becomes a lot. And that's what I know now. If I write a few pages a day, in a couple of months, I got up the next 300-page book.
Right.
But I'll also warn everybody listening, but if you don't, then you've forfeited your right to complain about the stuff you don't have because of the work you didn't do. Right. And
100%.
But I guess that's why we call them rock stars, right? Because if everybody was a rock star, we'd just call them a normal person.
That's right. Well said. Well said. Well, Martin, this was awesome, man. And like I said, I could do this forever. I could really do this forever. This was really great. I hope everybody watching, listening, the people who watch us on replay, the people who listen to this as the podcast, really will take a lot out of this. Please make sure. You know what? Before Martin, what's the website? Where can people get a hold of you? I know there was a podcast going on. Like, where can people get more information other than buying the book? Like, I want them immersed in your world.
Yeah, well, hey, if you liked what you heard today, I have a podcast called Into the Roar. Man, half-hour power episodes with straight motivation. A lot of the things that you just heard, the initial episodes on there too, because there's hundreds of them, were all interviews with a lot of superstars in my network that were really cool too.
Right.
Hey, Instagram, you can find me on Instagram as the Martin Rooney. I'm always putting up some cool content there. And hey, I'm Martin Rooney on Facebook, but you can check out coachinggreatness.com or trainingforwarriors.com to find more out about our organization. And hey, but ultimately, I'm always putting stuff out there to help people. And man, that's what I'm wishing it does for anybody listening now.
Yeah, so that is awesome, and I once again I hope everybody listening really got some really great advice and got themselves motivated and jacked up, ready to go, ready to be a rock star. I know we're on a short week this week with it being the holidays, but that doesn't matter. You know, I hope everybody has enjoys the time with their family and finds ways. I know it's going to be it's going to be different for all of us this year, celebrating the holidays, but please do it safely and and be thankful for what we've all got around us because time is all we have, man. That's it. So it's the one thing we can't get back. And so use it wisely, spend it wisely. And I want to thank everybody so much for all of your support, for supporting Rocket Live, Rocket Growth Agency, subscribing to the YouTube channel, watching these live, subscribing to the podcast. Really appreciate it. And, and I do this because I love doing it. And I want to support my friends. I want everybody to be exposed to this great information that I get exposed to when I talk to these people, not even in a live capacity like this. So I want to be able to bring this to you and share it with you guys. And hopefully you get something out of it as much as I do. So with that, I am going to sign off. Thank you, Martin, again for coming on. And we will see you guys next time on another episode of Rocket Live. Remember, be authentic, be yourself, and always remember to rock it.